Hey, it's Don, the Auction Professor. Today is Sunday, so it's time for another What's Sold on eBay. And as usual, I'm just going to show you some oddball items. Again, it's just randomly picked items. It's just a small portion of what we sold for the week. I'm not going to include any clothing at all. Everybody's got clothing up. You all know what to look for in clothing, or most of you do. I don't mess with clothing, as you know, for the most part. We've pretty much stopped buying it unless it's a really high dollar, quick turn item. Just because of space, just because the market's dying. It's hard to get now for a decent price. So again, they're just random items, a lot of paper and oddball collectibles and stuff you'll see in here. But we're going to hop over the screen and I'm going to show you some of what we got.
So here we go. As always, I've excluded clothing, and pretty much I don't think I have any records in here either. I've sold many of both, quite a few actually, way more than you see here, just what I'm showing you. But again, records, you know, they all pretty much are the same thing and are as our clothing, so I'm not going to show a bunch of that at all. We did sell quite a few clothing. I put some on sale, so, you know, I sold probably 10% of the clothing we had just in this past week, the minute I put it on sale. We're going to be running some more sales here. I've got some other things that we want to rotate in. So anyway, we're going to go on to the first item here. This is a real picture postcard. This was up for a little while, like 6 months, I want to say. We took $35 for it. There's not a lot of information on it other than the Canadian Gorge, but it's still a decent item. These do still sell, even if they're nondescript, even if it doesn't say where it's from, just as a transportation postcard alone, it will sell. So $35, I was happy with it. We got $1 or $2 into it. You know, there's, you know, at the most, say, you know, 25 cents in the listing fee. So, you know, there's really nothing into stuff like this when you buy them this cheap. Almost everything we buy costs us almost nothing, a couple bucks or less for everything, you know. And that's again why I don't buy clothing too much anymore. There is no way to get it around here or to scale it, and I keep reiterating this in our area anyway. Maybe in your area it's awesome and stuff, you know, there's different areas of the country and different things are happening. But here the Sabres are closed, many other stores are closed, and the other ones are having financial difficulties and have raised the prices beyond what you can make money for, you know, what you can make money out of these. And, you know, for the most part, I'm not going to mess with the $5 profit on a shirt, you know, or a t-shirt or whatever the case may be. There's no real high-end clothes. Even if you go to the better neighborhoods, there aren't thrift stores out there. So, you know, that kind of kills the whole aspect of it. And the other option to buy high-end clothing would be to go to like a consignment store, and their prices are about what eBay's would be. So there wouldn't be any sense in doing that anyway. But let's go on to what I got here. Now this one I showed in a haul. We took $20 for it. It's got some wear, some other issues to it. This is one of those finds you can get really cheap sometimes. The Sabres, well, again, there isn't one opened here, but Sabres had these all the time. I used to find vintage cars and toys and things like that. Most people passed on the airplanes because they weren't sure on them. They hadn't a clue on, you know, age or anything like that on these airplane ones. So I've always done good on these too. And this is the same color as the vintage, you know, Hot Wheels. So I mean, it's a good item. $20 we took for it, plus they paid the $3.75 shipping. Now I've talked about, you know, what we price things at many times. I usually price them at least 3 times higher than I've seen other ones sell, or I would assume that I would get for it. This is another example of that. These usually sell for $9-10. I took $27.50. It was up for maybe 60 cents worth of listing or so, somewhere in that range. I don't have the exact number right here in front of me, but that's a ballpark range on this one. I talk about labels now. I buy them whenever I can from collectors and things like that. I'll buy backstock from dealers sometimes on stuff like this. It just depends on the dealer. Now, if you're going to do backstock buying from dealers, you better make sure that they don't mess with this type of item to begin with, because they could be selling you the items that they just can't sell. And I see that across the board all the time. Local live antique auctions are flooded with stuff from dealers who can't sell it, and they're trying to pawn it off to other, you know, eBayers who just haven't researched to know what they're doing. You can preview any auction, and you can know if the item's worth buying in the first place. So keep that in mind. If you see something in an auction, research the price while you're there if you have to. who cares what they see you doing? Just don't let other people, other buyers see you, because they might see there's a value in it and they might bid against you. So I kind of, go sit down after I look up stuff. I'll write down notes on what I want to look at, and then I'll type it in while I'm sitting there waiting for the auction to start. It just looks like I'm sitting there conversing with somebody. I'm not in front of the actual item that I'm looking up, so I can just move on and go from there. But I keep a little, tally on what I want, or I'll, record something on my phone to say which ones I want with my headphones on or something like that. So anyway, let's move on. Now, I talk about magazines all the time. This is one of those that I got a bunch of the same ones. I picked up a stack of these. They look like they'd never been touched. I don't know if they're like old store stock or something along that line. I've been averaging about $8-10 a piece. This one went for 10. It's Shirley Temple's 21st birthday album. So anyway, we sold a bunch of magazines. I did mark them down. As I said last week, I was going to mark them down. And we had a big boost in magazine sales. Our sales are still up, so I just did it just to blow some of this older items out of here. Some of these, when they sit around a while, you risk damaging them, or, some wear issues to them. So some items I don't like to keep along too long. And then again, if they haven't sold in a while, they do have watchers. We'll put those items on sale, because chances are, if it's got a ton of watchers and it hasn't had any offers or bids in months, I've got the price wrong or something else like that. So now I priced it 3 times what I expected to get out of it. I did get 15 out of it. Who knows about this type of thing? It's just cheap, celluloid-ish, hard, fragile plastic. And this is something fragile as well, too. It's not in super condition, but $15, they were happy with it. So anyway, this is something like a 50-cent item or less, too, just FYI. Labels again. I talk about this all the time. Shoot for high prices. You can always come down later. I took 10 on this. $8 to $10 is probably about the max these go for. I've had other Congress Hotel items from Chicago. That's about average. Some of them even go for $5-6 for the exact same label. So, I can't go wrong selling these for $10 all day long. I've got nothing into this. This, bulk buys, buys like that. So, I can't complain at all. Let's see. Next item, trade card. This was an earlier one. We had this up for a little while, but I still took $10 out of it. So either way, I'm still pretty happy with the item. But $10 on that one. Now I talk about photos all the time. I sold a whole mess of photos. We started off at $57.50. I sold a bunch at $57.50. I lowered them down to, I think, $45 was the next one, and we sold a bunch more. And now they're at $39.99, and I sold a bunch. I mean, $400, $500, $600 this week in just these type of things. Didn't put them all in here. They went to different people. This is one person. This one went for $30 final price on this one. And then most of these were $35 from this. This gentleman's bought many from me. They're going to France, I believe, on this lot. But we sold, a couple dozen of these, literally. $35 a pop on these. They're pretty much the same thing, just different planes and all. They're actually government stamped on the back. They're stamped by the company that actually produced the vehicles. These are original, vintage, authentic government press photos. 8x10s for the most part. Real pictures. Another one. All these were like $35 is what I took for all of these. And you can just see there's a bunch of them just right here. And again, we sold a bunch. I mean, 5, 6, maybe it was even more than that. I don't have the tally right here in front of me, but I know it was well over $500 in just those photos. And as I said, magazines are on sale right now too. So I've been selling magazines. Average price $10 I took on this one here. I got 45 cents into listing it and $1 fee or $1 into buying it. So, with final value fees, I got like $2.20 in it. We made almost $8 on it. So, somewhere in that range. But let's move on here. Talk about these all the time. This one sold for full price, $22.50. It looks like a nice unit. These kinds sell, and some people buy these even for like steampunk because it looks like a little radar assembly, and this thing actually folds down into like a little tiny piece. I wished I had one. It fits in that little pouch right there. So these sell very well. I've sold a ton. Every single week I sell several pieces of photography, lenses or lens filters, lens caps, meters, lighting, all kinds of stuff like that. So, and I just picked up another batch just this week. I showed you another batch from last week. Almost every week these days, I've been finding some flash material. And I don't know what the deal is with camera stuff showing up all the time. Maybe, people are retiring, they're moving to digital, whatever the case may be. I swoop that stuff up. If you're at a sale, a garage sale or something, and you see old, SLR cameras, purchase them, because just the body on some of these we've sold for almost $1,000 for some of the nice Nikons and Olympus. Just the body, no lens, no nothing with them. So just keep that in mind. And some of the auto motors and things for them, those things can go for $800-900 as well too. I've got lenses that we've sold for thousands as well too. So just keep that in mind. And a lot of people do not know the value on some of these, the SLR cameras. They think now it's all digital, so the other stuff just isn't worth anything. Who develops film anymore? But there's a huge, huge market for it still. Even young people collect them because of, they do photography. They're in college or whatever the case may be, but this stuff all sells. Postcards, again, I've talked about these before. This one I think we took 25 on. Neat and interesting one, early one, nice area, 1910, dollar purchase, up for like 3 or 4 months, so 15 cents in the listing it. And again, the average price we got on most, across the board on the magazines, we sold a whole bunch of magazines, and I'm not exaggerating. Just took, putting them on sale to get a bunch of sales, out of them. And if you plan on doing that, and you're having magazines that you want to get through, and they're vintage ones, I usually price them a little higher than, obviously, I don't do every item 3 times the price. Magazines, I do not do 3 times the price. Just because there's so many more magazines made than like postcards. So, there might be thousands or 1 million of some magazines that were pressed, and who knows how many are still left. So I don't do that with magazines. I price them, 50% higher than I expect to get them or sell them for. All these I got $10 into, and the average is, as I was about to say, is around 12, like $12.30, I think was the average price across the board for every magazine we sold this week. And we did sell a bunch. So anyway. This person bought a bunch of the same titles. I bought a big stack of these for like $5 or $10 somewhere. This has been a while now. I didn't list them right away. They sat there, and then I listed them. I sold a couple right off the bat, paid for everything, made a good profit, and then they've been trickling in here. And as I said, I put a bunch on clearance basically by marking them down. I think we marked them down 30%, and then we've been selling a bunch. Comic books, this one sold for the $17.50. We sold quite a few comic books this week, maybe 24 or so, somewhere in that range for the week. That's a little more than usual. I think we average like 20 now a week in comic books. I could just show you a whole video on comic books, honestly, but, is that going to help you? Anybody can look up comic books. Usually the 12 and 10 cent ones are the ones I get. This was actually a first issue by Archie. Most people pass up anything by Archie because they don't think much of it. This was mixed in with a bunch of Archie, literally like Richie Rich comic books. So, and I paid $1 for it. So $17.50 back. It was only up like 3 months, 15 cents in the listing it. So like $1.60 or $1.70 in total into this item. The rest is all profit. Plus they paid shipping, as everybody pays shipping on all my items. I know people have said and asked questions on shipping wise. Do I lose sales on shipping or by not offering free shipping or shipping these in just a plain envelope for the price of a stamp? I may lose them, but I sell my items for more than most people do in the first place. So plus the people pay the extra shipping. And again, watch my shipping videos. I know people say I'm very excessive with the shipping and the tape, but it pays off. I get tons of repeat business because of that. My feedback alone shows off the fact that all these people are extremely happy. They don't mind paying the extra for the shipping because their item is guaranteed. It's almost bulletproof packaging the way I do it. And I've done it this way for years and have not had an issue. I do not put postcards or any of these cards in a standard envelope with a stamp ever. I don't care what you want to put in there. I don't do it because I want tracking on everything. And I don't care if it's a $3 postcard and they're paying $3.50 for shipping. They make the offer. They know what they've got into the item. They don't complain about it. I haven't had anybody complaining. I don't get bad feedback for my shipping. I don't get nasty comments or anything. It's, the only ones I get nasty comments from are folks who give away the shipping or throw stuff in an envelope for 35 cents. And keep in mind that if you're sending these kind of items in a standard envelope overseas, you are breaking the law of this country and of another country, chances are, because there's import-export fees on everything. If it's a piece of merchandise, it cannot go in a regular envelope. A regular envelope is only, and I mean only, for correspondence. That's literally what the government website states on that. It is a correspondence letter for conversation, not for merchandise. You can get away with sending them local, in the U.S. in a standard envelope because you're not violating anything locally. There's no import-export laws that you're violating. But the minute you send those out overseas, you're violating several laws. One for our country alone, so just keep that in mind. And I've said this many times, just keep that in mind. This one I took 30. This is another example. This one went to England. The purchaser spent the $10 to have this shipped to his country in England. Not only that, at $30, this person knows that he's going to get hit with a import fee on it. Any item going to Canada, UK, and there's many other countries that do it. You can look them up yourself too. But there's an import fee on anything over $20 to England and to Canada. And that's why they're trying to get you to send stuff in regular envelopes, because they get to bypass the import fee. You violate the law, they don't. So if it shows up in a regular envelope, they're not violating because nothing was declared, and they can just blame it on you. And, I've now personally heard a story about, what can happen to you. And I may do a video just on that. But people think it's no big deal. It can be a very big deal. You can actually be arrested for it technically. Chances are they won't go to that extreme, but if you're doing it all the time and Canada throws a fuss, which a friend of mine had an issue over a Canadian piece being imported into the country and wasn't declared, you're opening yourself up for some legal issues. Anyway, so let's move on here. Again, $30 on this one. Now, this one I think I've showed several. I sell maybe every 10 days or so, I sell one of this exact same card. The mermaids always sell, there's postcards, there's reproductions even of this card because it's that popular. The better versions of this card are like in Spanish, Latin, something along that line. I've even had a French version of this card. Those go for like $30, $40 for the most part. But this card is a very, very popular card. So anyway, and this one did sell for $14.50. And again, I sell one of these like every 10 days. I've got like 20 or more of this same card right now just waiting in the wings to go up. I don't put a bunch on at the same time because you're flooding the market. Don't forget you do have competition on some of these cards, because just because I can get 20 of these, someone else can get 20 of these as well too. And hopefully they're smart enough not to flood the market with them. This one even had a little crease on it. Let's see here. Bottom right corner crease. Hard to see, but it's probably a small crease. Either way, $14.50. Let's move on here. This I believe I showed in a haul. I've actually got a second one of these not too long ago. Now this is one of those oddities. This is from First Contact. I did sell it for $29.99. I paid $1 or $2 for it at the most from a picker. Now this one here, you can actually sell this with the box for the same price. People don't look stuff up. So if you have the box version, sometimes the box version only sells for $20. I don't get why that is, other than the fact that probably people just aren't researching what these go for. And I had no concerns on trying to get $30 out of this, even though a box version goes for $30. A mint in the box sells for $30. I mean, they can sell higher, but if you look across the board, these sell all the time, across the board, without issue, whether a box or not, in the same price range. And there's thousands upon thousands of items that I sell that people worry, oh, wow, I got the box. It doesn't matter on some items just because people are not willing to look up stuff. These usually sold to younger people, kids, nothing against your age or anything else like that, but a lot of people who buy these toys, I find, don't look them up across the board. Why? I just don't get it, because I look up everything. If I'm going to buy something, I'm price matching. Every dime I save by, cutthroat buying something somewhere is a dime I'm making. It's a dime I'm putting in the bank. Why would you not look up everything? I don't care if it's bags, boxes, a printer or a monitor or your microphone, whatever you're doing, look up the price. Chances are you can find a cheaper price. You can definitely find a cheaper price than even on Amazon or Newegg, or if you're buying media stuff, like printer stuff for supermedia.com or any of these other sites that we use. I do use Newegg all the time, but you've got to be price worry on these. Sometimes you can find them on eBay. I don't mind buying used electronics as long as if it's a printer or something, it's got to have a real low print count. We've got a couple printers here now. Like 3 or 4 printers here now. Some do something, some do others. We've got some in different areas of the house, so I don't have to run upstairs or run way across the building to find something. I can just print it from wherever we're at. It's just the way it is. But anyway, this one I took 30 for. Now, these Streamline City of ones, and it's City of anything, there's a ton of different City ones. I buy them all the time. I try to pick them up whenever I can. I don't care if they're used, unused, or even if it's a little rough in condition, depending on, the actual line. I've got a few more of these, and I've been debating on throwing some more up here. But $30 on this one. By the number, it was up for like 9 months. So, you've got 45 cents into listing it. Maybe 50 cents to $1 in purchasing it, and then the fees. So, I'm making my 80% profit or more on this one item alone, and the $30 I would imagine is probably what I paid for a whole bunch of these. And I've had it up for a little while, so I don't remember the story on each one of these. I get the same one quite often, so you might run into the same label over and over and over again, just because we go to the same type of areas to find these. So, I've got some good sources on stuff. Now, this one here is just, I'm not sure if it was a scrap or it was printed this way, but it's cut out around the girl, and I couldn't quite tell. Sometimes it's hard to tell if whoever cut them out did a real good job, whether it was printed that way or not, because this is, 100 plus years old, and when it's been worn and rubbed around and stuff, you can't quite tell how fresh the cuts are on the edges to tell if it was stamped out, pressed out, or cut out. So, anyway, I took 25 on this. I wished I remembered how long this was up, but I don't believe it was up that long. We list large items only so often. Like once a month, I'll list a stack of greater than 8 inches tall or 8 inches wide items because of how we store them. So I'll do all the big items that we store in one of the accordion files that I've showed in other videos, so I can shove them all in the same file as I do them. So again, that goes with saving time and stuff like that. That's just why I sort through stuff, or I might not list stuff for 90 days even on sometimes. So $25 I took on it. I was very happy with $25. I just threw out some price out there. You never know what you're going to get, but my pricing scheme, I'm usually throwing out $34.50, $45, or $57.50, and then I go, sometimes I'll do $59.99, $75, $95, $94.50. These are standard pricing that I do across the board on just all kinds of items. Even if I don't expect to get that out of it, that's what I'm pricing it for, because I can always take less. This person is happy getting it at $25 because I had $57.50. Because they think it's a big deal. They made a nice email. Wow, thanks, great. So glad you took my offer. I'm so glad to have this piece and the whole work. So people do artwork with these. Who knows what this person's going to do with these? But people religiously buy stuff like this, and they'll do art productions with it of some sort. Mixed media or something along that line. And I do stuff with these sometimes too, especially the Santa Claus ones. Let's go on to the next one. I think I got 30 out of this one. Yeah, and this is really small. I wished I had a size comparison to show you. It's maybe like $6 worth of sterling, I think was the current conversion rate. Yeah, it's like $6. So at the price I took for it, I'm very happy. This is a $2 purchase from a sale around here. There's companies in like church groups that have sales of jewelry, really cheap stuff. Sometimes you can even find gold in some of these sales and stuff. We found many pieces of gold. I've even found Tiffany sterling pieces at some of these sales, still for $2-3 at the most. So this was a good profit item too. Wasn't up that long by the number N120, and I just showed how we bag and do these in a storage video that I just had up. So if you're interested, you can go back and see that from just a couple days ago. I sell quite a few of these. I'll pick them up. These are, like quarter pieces right here you'll get out of a bin or sometimes in a bag. And I don't remember if this came out of a bin or a bag, but I got about 30 cents into listing it. And then less than $1 into buying them, I'm sure. So $12.50 is what I sold them for, and it was on an auction. I throw out some auctions just to use up the 1,000 free auctions that I have. It keeps my cost down a little bit because I'll run some auctions, until I use up my 1,000, and it takes the charges away from the buy it now ones, my bins. Now I talk about tobacco labels. I've been selling at least one every single day, if not more now, on tobacco. Tobacco stuff has just been selling and selling and selling. I've been actually selling more than I have been in, the past, say, 6 months or so. This last month, I mean, just through the roof. I've been just selling, on and on and on. Pretty much half of my tobacco labels and stuff is probably sold in the last, say, month or 5-6 weeks. Half of the ones I have. So we literally took a whole mess of pictures just the other day to get some more up. Because my inventory up online, I'm surprised, has been going down really quickly. So on just these items, the tobacco ones, we've been listing other stuff, and I've been rotating. So I actually changed my 90-day plan for these items here, and we bumped them up to a quicker list time. So anyway. Here is a nice one. This one's damaged, and it was even listed in the damage. There's some heavy creases that have the paper split, and you can see it right there across it. It's a nice one, though. This is an early one. It's Boyd & Company, which isn't a very common brand, and it's a promo one, too. Now, I had somebody ask, how do I get these off? This was never on a box. When you see the printing on the back of the label, chances are it was a sample used to sell it to other people. But this was never on a box. This was out of someone's collection here at some point. It's a rather nice image. I just wished it was in better condition, because I do save copies of a lot of these for my own personal collection. I collect images like this for a design and art issues and stuff like that. Most artists used to keep a file, and that's why some print ads and things like that do sell, because a lot of artists keep files still to this day. But I've went digital, and I'll just scan whatever I want or take some photos of the items or save them in a file. I've got probably a couple 100,000 images that I've saved through the years of stuff that I've personally had, and we've thought about throwing them together. You can see compilation discs of vintage Victorian cards or postcards and things like that people will burn their own discs and sell them as a brand new item. So you'll see there's thousands of them on eBay right now, and they average, $10 or so is about the average for most of what people get out of those. It's just the cost of you burning the CD once you've done the initial storing and then formatting the actual file for the disc. You'll want like a directory and an index on it as well too. But I literally went back and forth on doing it. There's not a huge market on it. You can't sell it everywhere. You might have issues selling that disc on Amazon, but on Etsy you could, and on eBay, and some of the other sites will let you do it too. So anyway. I sell posters quite often, couple a week, and I've showed them before. This one was folded. The person who bought this bought it for a friend of theirs because of Mini Pearl, isn't it? So anyway, $22.50. This one I think we took $45 on. It's a harder to get one. Belding Brothers isn't as common as, say, Clark's, O&T, or some of the other ones like that. So anyway, and the image is really nice. It's got a nice foo dog. I would say it's a foo dog or Asian dragon, something along that line. But anyway, let's move on to the next one. Miniature Salesman Sample. I would say it's really tiny. I was really surprised on this. Maybe it's a usable piece. I'm not really sure. But $14.50. I've got a quarter into it. It was up for, maybe 30 cents worth of listing fees. So, I'm still making 12 something on it. Now, again, this is one of those 3 times the items. I put about 3 times what I expected to get on these. These run to $8 to $12 on average. I took 10 because the person bought 3 cards. And I wouldn't have taken it. I usually wait a little while when I see a card offer come in, because many times, at least 50% of the time when I see an offer coming in on something, they're buying a couple items just because we do charge shipping, so that makes them want to look and see what else they can find to cut the cost down on their shipping. But anyway, again, 10 a piece. I wasn't worried at all. And these are the 4th of July ones. We're past the season. I'll definitely get more in before next 4th of July. So, and it's still a semi-hot item because people are still collecting this. It didn't happen that long ago. Another one, too. Now, these are nice cards, but, they're nothing fancy. Well, they are fancy, I guess you'd say, but they're nothing special. There's a ton of these, and they're not as big seller, obviously, as Christmas or anything, but $10 a piece I'm very happy with. I paid $1 or less for these. Because I pretty much never pay more than $1 for almost any postcard, for the most part. Obviously, there's some that I've paid $10, $15, $20 for, but not for the most part. This one was 30 I sold it for, and it's because where it's from. And I've never even heard of this Quinimo, Kansas, so it was an oddball item. So I was fine with $30. It wasn't up for, oh geez, this one was only up for 2 hours, 2.5 hours at the max. It was a 50-cent piece. It's like around the size of a postcard. I bought a whole binder from one of my pickers, and he got it from a estate sale. He just bought the whole thing straight out, right? It was on a bookshelf. So, I've talked about the bookshelf, looking through all the binders on the bookshelf. I just had that one. I just got it not too long ago. So, that's one of the reasons I say if you're going there, you can even find those, the binders sometimes at the last day of a sale, because everybody doesn't look through there. They'll just look and say, it's nothing, let's move on. So anyway, now this one here, this is one of those ones where less information helps sell something quick. This was up literally as long as the Kansas one I just showed you, and it's sold right off the bat within just a couple of hours of being up. These are like escort cards that somebody would have handed out, like a gentleman to a lady. Let me escort you home. Every one of these I sell. Every single one. And I usually sell them within a day. I've got a half a dozen of these right now. Average price is like $20 to $25. This one went for $34.50 straight out. Some of these have the person's name written in the back in pencil or pen. So this one's not that fancy of one either. It's a very small item. You can see the size. These show up in like ticket collectors sometimes too, because it looks like a ticket. And there's many that look just like this, or very similar, I should say. So, I'm fine with the price we took on this one, because I've got nothing into it. We did sell a bunch of roller skating labels. I'm a little slower than we were the prior week. I only sold 6 of these this week. The lowest price was this one for $17.50. The other 5 went for more in the $20 range, or $22.50, $24.50 was one of them even too. So anyway, it's still good sales on these, because I got way less than $1 in these for the most part. We're getting down. There's a couple more left. Last one I'm going to talk about too for just a minute here too. I marked down some photos. This one was up for a little while, maybe like 9 months. Unfortunately, Aretha Franklin did pass away. I've got a ton of her music here at the house. My wife listens to it. We missed seeing her once when she was at a casino up here, and I wished we would have. Just my schedule just wouldn't allow it. It wasn't just her. There was other people performing too, which I wouldn't have mind seeing. But this did sell. So everything I had on Aretha, I don't mark up the prices just because she's passed, unfortunately. I'm not going to rip somebody off by doing that. At least I think of it that way. If you do it, that's fine. That's your own call. I don't criticize somebody else for doing it. It's your own business. My personal business ploy isn't to do that. So, it did sell. It did sell right after she passed. And so did a couple other Aretha Franklin. I showed several sheet musics by her as well too. So anyway. As I've talked about this lot, I get these all the time. I had 452 or so of these. I put them on a clearance or a markdown on these, and then we're down to like 426 or something like that. So I've sold quite a few. I sell photos of every type throughout the week, and these are almost all exclusively 8x10s with the advertising information on here, as you can see. CBS television, and I pick these up in big stacks is what I try to buy them at. Obviously, you can't always find them like that, but this was done for Ford Motor Company, and these show up around here. So there was a CBS, big CBS in Detroit. So sometimes I'm lucky enough to get big lots from some of the smaller broadcasters or their smaller subdivision bases and stuff like that. So anyway. And here's the last item. Now, on this one here, one of my subscribers, they're probably listening now, pointed out that I misspelled. I don't remember if I had Quain in it or not. So it said Mark Quain or Mark something else. It was misspelled. There was just a simple typo in there. They pointed it out. That was either my bad or one of my employees. I'm not going to scold somebody for a typo, because I typo too. Everybody does it. It's just something that happens. So it could have been, avoided if somebody just take a quick look. So we did point that out to everybody. Myself, I talked about it because I do mistakes too. So no scolding or anything. But once the price was changed, I got 2 offers within 2 hours of me relisting this item. And one offer was for 50 and the next one was for 70. Now, I don't take an offer right away on stuff if you just relist something, rule of thumb, don't take the offer immediately. You've got, so many days, usually a day or two, for these offers. So don't take it right away, especially, as I said, if you've just relisted the item or you've just listed it. Give it a day or two to see. Because had I thought, hey, let me take that $50 offer right off the bat, I would have just lost $20. And when you take the higher dollar offer, the $70, it automatically sends a declined offer to the second highest bidder, and they'll see that it's sold for 70 if they're really interested in looking anyway. But this was an oddball one here. $50 would have been fair. There isn't a comp to compare this to, but I have sold many Mark Twain cards, Victorian trade cards, or there's been card games like famous authors card games and stuff, and you can sell just specific authors out of that specific set if you don't have a complete set or the box is missing or something like that. And I've got a couple full games of those. I'm just debating on if I want to cut them up, separate the cards out, because there's 4 or 5 in there that will sell on their own for decent money. So I'll just have to do a couple comp searches on whether the famous author set sells that high at this point. There's many versions of it that were released in different decades, 1870s, 1880s, 90s. I think they even had famous authors card sets up and through like the 20s. So that is something I look for, but I thank you to the subscriber who pointed this out to me. So it was a quick $70 turnaround. As soon as it was relisted, literally just shortly after it was relisted, the offers started coming in. And maybe I could have sold it for 90. It's hard to say. Maybe I could have put 125 on it and gotten more for it. But his autograph only sells, and it doesn't sell for a huge amount of money. Surprising, how famous he is that it doesn't sell that high. You'd be surprised if you start looking up some of the autographs, what they sell for. A friend of mine had Benjamin Franklin's autograph on a vintage original colonial document. It was a parchment. It had, government impressed seal on it and all. I think he maybe got only $1,400 for it. So, I always anticipated stuff like that was $5,000, $10,000, $15,000. Somebody I know right now has a Abraham Lincoln autograph. That one's going to Heritage, I believe, Heritage Auction House. But, they do show up. You will be surprised. Mark Twain's autograph shows up on postcards even sometimes. I would far more look for an autograph or something on a postcard than I would worry about the price of a stamp on a postcard. Just FYI, I find more autographs or cancellations that are worth money on postcards than I ever find on stamps. Most of the stamps, even if they value in a book at, $10 or something, you're barely going to get a couple bucks from them if you're lucky, and they're not as worried about buying them on a postcard. Stamp collectors, for the most part, don't really care as much about postcards. They will buy an envelope with that same stamp on it 10 times over what they would buy a postcard with that on it. They're cover collectors. Know your stamps if you're going to be worrying about that too, because I collected stamps as a child. I did the Boy Scout stamp collector's badge and the whole works, and once I was older and was senior assistant scoutmaster, I actually was in charge of that merit badge for the kids under us. So anyway, I do know my stamps fairly well. I do have copies of the books just because I buy them in bulk. I was lucky enough to buy a huge bulk lot at an auction of just supplies, books, and things. It had some vintage catalogs and price guides in it and stuff. And I got it for $20, and it was a pallet. I mean, a pallet full of collectibles. It was the refillment pages for the stamp albums and things, and it was thousands of these things. I just threw them up on eBay and bulk listed them. So if I have 50 of the one, I just listed a 50 of the one, and sure enough, there were some that sold religiously, really quickly. And we went through a whole pallet of this stuff in less than a month. It was out the door. Literally everything. The ones that didn't sell at the end of the month, I bulk lotted them. I just wanted the space. It took up some space in a garage, and I like being able to use my garage for a garage. So anyway, that's what I have this week. Tomorrow and probably Tuesday, I might be doing the second and third part to the toy video. It's a good time to buy them. I should have done this maybe in the beginning of summer, because you're going to find these at garage sales more over than not. Probably half the garage sales I've been to had action figures of some sort at them. I haven't been to many garage sales this season at all. Right now I had to go to the emergency room for poison ivy, so I am highly allergic to it, beyond belief. My breathing was off, and I was having problems in slurring my words over this, so I rushed to the emergency room. I didn't even realize I was exposed to it. I didn't see it in the yard. Still don't figure out where I got it from, but that's definitely what happened. So, you know, anyway, my life has been a little hectic these past couple weeks. But, you know, that's what we've got for you today. Hopefully that gives you some good ideas.
Well, there you go. That's some of what we sold. Again, it's just a random selection. I didn't include any clothing or records. We've sold a bunch of both of those. I sell records every single day of the week on several sites, honestly. We sell records pretty much every day on Amazon, eBay, and Discogs. So, you know, those are the three sources that I use. We will be touching base on probably Discogs in another video. I may even show you on cross-promoting or cross-listing from eBay to Discogs as well, too. Discogs is not just a site for listing records. It also is a database for historical content on, you know, artists and type of music and labels and things like that too. So there's a little more to Discogs, and I'll probably go into that in a video here soon. But that's what I have for you today. Hopefully you liked the video. If you did, please hit the like button down below. You can also hit the bell icon up top to be notified when I go live or post new content. Subscribe and tell a friend.